Episode 116 this week, Evolution. We finally hit season 3 where things get much better. Much better in season 3. This one, not the greatest of episodes, but it's much more preferred over a lot of the stuff in seasons 1 and 2. Well, this week, there's a representative of the Federation on board the Enterprise, and he's all excited because they're watching a star have its energy drained from a red giant and then explode. And it happens once precisely every 196 years to the very second, supposedly. That's as often as the thing happens. Supposedly it's been around long enough and people have tested it long enough they know the exact precise second. And this scientist has been studying this for many years. He's there to witness the thing and to send this probe that they call the egg out to catalog all the information they can on the phenomenon. They're all excited, but they kick off the episode with Wesley Crusher in his quarters. He's gone to beddy by on his desk. Commander Riker calls him, asks if he overslept. Wesley's like, "Oh yeah, I'll be right there." And he hurriedly just puts things away, rushes off to the bridge. But once things get going and they're ready to make the final arrangements for this study, all of a sudden the ship goes haywire. They start flying around in a circle and the buttons don't respond to anything. They finally reverse engines. That works. It works. They stop. So Picard orders everybody to figure out what happened to the ship. He's a little nervous for the experiment. The representative of the Federation, he went flying to the floor, so he's in sickbay right after that, getting his back fixed. And Wesley Crusher's talking to the returning Dr. Crusher, who's fresh off her return from Starfleet Medical. They start talking with this scientist, and he's telling them how he never would have wanted to be a young man in Wesley's position, being a acting ensign, but having his mother on board, watching his every move. And then Dr. Crusher starts thinking about that and thinking, hey, I've missed a solid year of his life and all these things that went on that I may not know about. And he made a good point. But Wesley and the scientists go off, and then Dr. Crusher notices the food dispensers just flowing coffee out of it non-stop, so she tells the computer to fix it. The computer says nothing's wrong, so she stops the whole thing. She goes to see Picard. Picard's telling Geordi to fix the ship and fix the food dispensers. Dr. Crusher's like, yeah, that's fixed for now, but more importantly, tell me about my son. So he's telling her all the credentials and accolades. She's like, no, tell me about him. Is he dating? Is he popular? All this stuff. Picard's in a tough spot. He shouldn't be talking to Dr. Crusher about a fellow officer's life like that, but at the same time, he buddy pals with the Crusher family. So he just tells her he's his father's son and reminds him of his father at a similar age. And that satisfies Dr. Crusher to a point. And then she's asking Picard, well, what would you be doing if you were 17? And Picard says, getting in more trouble than Wesley for sure. And Dr. Crusher says, so was I. So why isn't he? And Picard tries to explain he's got responsibilities and duties and has to set himself to a higher example. Crusher's not buying it. Not buying it at all. But in the hangar deck, Wesley Crusher's talking to this scientist guy. They're inspecting the egg, make sure it's fine. It's in one piece still. And then the scientist starts asking Wesley if he's familiar with baseball. And Wesley says, oh yeah, my dad taught me about that game. And the scientist says he studied all the greats of baseball and he used to play out entire seasons in his mind and imagine what they would be like. And it got a little weird and awkward there. That the scientist says that baseball died out because people wanted fast food and fast games, and Wesley Crusher just kind of stood there wondering what was going wrong in his life. Then they get ready to make another attempt, and the Enterprise goes haywire again. The red alert sounds, so the scientist has to go to quarters, Wesley has to go to the bridge. Worf's talking about the Borg attacking, but they can't see anything on the monitor. They're sure the Borg's there, and then all of a sudden the Borg's gone right when they were trying to fire weapons at it, but they couldn't fire the weapons because nothing on the ship was working. And then all of a sudden Philip Sousa starts playing over the PA, and Picard's like, "What's that?" And Data starts giving him the background of Sousa, and Picard has to tell him to knock it off. And now Picard's wondering if this whole mission has to be scrapped. Wesley's like, "Uh-oh, I wonder." And he goes to 10 forward. He's laying traps. So Guinan pops up out of nowhere, asks him what he's doing. He tells her that he made a big mistake and he was up all night working on a science experiment for school, had nanobots, got 2 of them to see if they could work in conjunction with each other rather than individually as they had always done before. And he thinks that the nanobots got away and they were the cause of the problems with the ship. So Guinan basically tells him he's got to tell Picard. And Picard goes into this meeting to decide the fate of the mission. And the scientist guy, he storms into the room, tells Picard they have to do this, and his problems with the ship are secondary. He's a representative of the Federation. He only has this one chance at seeing this phenomenon. Picard says, well, the safety of the crew and the ship's my responsibility, and that supersedes you. And they go back and forth. But then Wesley starts talking to his mother, and he tells her he was the cause of the thing with the ship. So Dr. Crusher takes over the next meeting, and she's giving everyone the rundown on these nanobots, and she thinks they've evolved, and they've become sentient and have a conscience of their own. Everyone's on board with this, but they're trying to figure out what to do. Wesley's trying to figure out what to do. So they start looking into things, and they see that there's 2 distinct groups of these nanobots. Well, Data, Crusher, and LaForge are at one station trying to determine how they can stop these nanobots from taking over the whole ship. And the scientist guy walks in, shoots him with the phaser, kills the whole lot of them. Worf arrests the guy. Picard's yelling at him. They take him into the ready room. And Riker and Picard are trying to figure out what to do. Picard wants to just leave the solar system, head back to Starbase and get the problem settled. All of a sudden, nitrous oxide starts filling the whole cabin, the bridge, and the ready room. So they're choking to death, except for Data, and they finally suction out the oxide, and they realize that the ship just tried to kill them. The nanobots were out for revenge. So then Data's trying to figure out a way to communicate, and he finally says, we could just let the nanobots into me, and I'll be their vessel for communication. They can speak through me. Worf's like, that's a horrible idea. He's a Starfleet commander. They could use him to do all kinds of horrible things to us. Picard's like, okay, Data, let's go with your idea. Much to the chagrin of Worf. And so they try that. They communicate. And the nanobots say they'll leave the ship alone. Everything's solved. They get to see the phenomenon, record all the information, and everybody's happy in the end. Some interesting notes in this one. Dr. Crusher, of course, makes her return. She missed season 2 entirely, but came back for season 3 and finished the whole series as Dr. Crusher. There's also the return of all the rest of the regular cast members, minus Chief O'Brien, who was absent for this one, but all the rest of them had some role, even though most of them were fairly small this week. Also interesting, it was the first real talk of actual baseball seasons in The Next Generation. They'd referenced baseball a time or two, but this time they delved into baseball and it having not lasted to the 23rd century as an organized sport. And pretty much that's 116. Huh?
My phone just went wiggy.
Yeah.
Restart it.